When I got the memo that I would be part of the diplomatic team welcoming the first alien ambassador to Earth, I thought I was dreaming. After years of working in a mundane government office sifting through endless paperwork, my big break had arrived in the form of an interstellar rendezvous. The alien species, known as the Tevrali, had contacted Earth 6 months prior, seeking to establish peaceful relations. Humanity buzzed with excitement and apprehension. I was mostly excited. The ambassador's arrival was nothing short of spectacular. Her ship, a gleaming silver orb that seemed to pulse with a life of its own, landed on the meticulously prepared grounds of the United Nations headquarters in New York. As the designated greeter, my task was simple: extend the hand of friendship, literally. The world watched as I stood on the live broadcast, nervously adjusting my tie and rehearsing my greeting in Tevrali, a language I had crammed overnight. She descended from her ship, a vision of otherworldly elegance. Her skin shimmered like the surface of a starlit pond, hues of blue and violet flowing over her slender form. Her eyes, large and expressive, radiated a calm intelligence. I stepped forward, extending my hand. She mirrored my gesture, her hand cool and smooth against mine. The moment our skin touched, a vivid light enveloped us. I felt a surge of energy, a connection that transcended the physical. It was over in seconds, but the impact lingered. We exchanged greetings, her voice musical and echoing, mine slightly quivering with awe. Later at the state dinner, I noticed she seemed unusually attentive towards me. Her gaze lingered, her smiles a touch too personal. I chalked it up to my anxious mind playing tricks. After all, what would a sophisticated alien ambassador want with a mid-level Earth bureaucrat? The following morning, however, everything changed. I was summoned urgently to a secure facility where the ambassador was staying. As I entered, I found her surrounded by her entourage, looking as serene as ever. She greeted me with a nod, her eyes betraying a hint of something I couldn't quite place. "Human," she began, her voice resonating softly. "We need to discuss the consequences of our interaction yesterday." Consequences? I replayed the handshake in my mind, searching for a misstep. Had I been too firm? Too brief? She continued, "In our culture, the joining of hands is more than a greeting. It is a ritual of connection. Last night, our connection was successful." I must have looked as confused as I felt because she elaborated, "I am now with child, and you, human, are the other contributor." I stood there, stunned. Pregnant? Contributor? This had to be a misunderstanding. Human and alien biology couldn't possibly be compatible. Could they? "Yes," she said, as if reading my thoughts. "Our biologies are more alike than different, thanks to the ancient seeding of worlds. You and I are distant relatives in cosmic terms." The room spun a little as I processed her words. A child. My child. With an alien ambassador. This was beyond any protocol. As per Tevrali tradition, you are now considered a co-parent. This is a great honor, human. An honor. A responsibility. A connection that went beyond any diplomatic mission I had ever imagined. As the reality set in, I realized my life was about to change forever, in ways no one could have predicted. The ambassador smiled, her expression both majestic and kind. "Welcome to the family, Earthling." And just like that, I was no longer just a bureaucrat. I was a father-to-be, to a child that would bridge two worlds. I could only hope I was ready for what came next. The news of my impending fatherhood with an alien ambassador sent ripples through the corridors of power in the media. Headlines screamed about the incident, and pundits debated the implications of human-alien offspring. In the privacy of the secure compound, I met with top officials and scientists, trying to understand the mechanics and consequences of what had happened. Meanwhile, the ambassador, whom I learned to call Alira, took it upon herself to educate me about Tevrali customs, biology, and what this connection meant for us both. We spent hours in discussions that spanned topics from genetics to diplomacy. The Tevrali were a people who believed in the profound connection of life forms across the universe, and Alira was a paragon of this belief. "Our child will be a symbol of unity," Elira explained one evening as we walked through the compound's gardens under the security lights. "Not just between our two peoples, but as a beacon to the cosmos that life seeks to unite. But how will this work? I asked, grappling with the logistics. Where will the child be raised? Earth? Your world? Illyra stopped, turning to face me, her eyes reflecting the garden's soft luminescence. We have worlds beyond these, places where beings of mixed heritage can thrive without prejudice. Our child could grow there. The idea of a world without prejudice struck a deep chord. On Earth, differences were often the root of conflict, not celebration. The idea that my child might never know such strife was comforting, yet filled me with an aching sense of displacement. I would be a father to a child in a world I might never fully understand or be part of. As weeks turned into months, Illyra's condition became more apparent. Her form began to emit a gentle glow, a sign of pregnancy in her species. Our meetings were no longer just about her condition, but about preparing for what lay ahead. We started attending sessions with a Tevrali liaison officer, designed to prepare me for my role as a co-parent in a culture vastly different from my own. The liaison, a kindly being named Soran, equipped me with devices that simulated Tevrali environments, complete with their rich, oxygen-heavy air and gravity that was slightly less than Earth's. "You'll need to be strong in more ways than one," Soran advised, his voice a soothing hum. "Your body, mind, and heart, prepare them all." Training involved learning to communicate through Tevrali technology that used a combination of touch, sound, and color. It was a sensory overload at first, but as time passed, I found a rhythm in the chaos, a harmony that mirrored the Tevrali philosophy of life. One night, as Illyra and I sat watching a simulated sunset designed to mimic her world's twilight, she placed my hand on her abdomen. There was a stir of movement, a flutter that felt like tiny waves rippling through an ocean of stars. "That's our child," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, feeling the echo of your heartbeat. In that moment, surrounded by the alien beauty of a sunset not of my world, feeling the kick of my unborn child, I felt a connection deeper than I'd ever known. My role had evolved from a simple greeting on a diplomatic mission to becoming a part of a legacy that spanned the stars. It was overwhelming and wondrous, terrifying and sublime, all at once. As the due date approached, preparations for the child's arrival became the focal point of our daily interactions. Illyra's health was monitored closely, not just by Tevrali medical experts, but also by human doctors who were eager to learn about her unique physiology. The blend of curiosity and concern from both teams was palpable, each learning from the other in a groundbreaking alliance of medical science. Meanwhile, I underwent my own transformations. The training with Soran intensified, focusing now not only on physical adaptations, but also on cultural integration. He taught me about Tevrali rites of passage, their philosophy of parenting, and the deep-rooted traditions that would guide our child's upbringing. "Your child will live in two worlds, but also beyond them," Soran explained. "It is vital you understand the paths they might walk." As part of my preparation, I was introduced to immersive virtual environments that simulated Tevrali social settings. Here, avatars of Tevrali of all ages interacted with me, helping me practice the customs and social cues I would need to master. The virtual reality was disorienting at first, landscapes and skies unlike anything found on Earth, but gradually it became a space where I felt a growing sense of belonging. One evening, after a particularly strenuous session, Illyra joined me in the simulation. She adjusted the settings, and suddenly we were standing under a sky where 3 moons rose, casting a triple shadow over the land. "This is where I grew up," she said softly, her voice filled with nostalgia. "Our child might wish to see this one day." The emotional weight of her words struck me deeply. Our child would navigate more than just the physical worlds. They would inherit the emotional landscapes of their parents as well. The arrival of the Tevrali High Council marked the next phase of our preparation. They came to Earth to officially acknowledge the impending birth, a ceremony that underscored the significance of this union. I was formally introduced as the co-parent, a title that carried both honor and immense responsibility. During the ceremony, Illyra and I stood together, hands linked as the High Council recited ancient blessings. The words were poetic, describing the union of stars and the confluence of galaxies. "Through this child, two civilizations will touch the stars together," the High Elder proclaimed, his voice echoing across the gathered crowd. Post-ceremony, the reality of our situation began to set in with even greater clarity. Elira's pregnancy was not just a personal event, but a galactic one. News crews from across the galaxy, both human and alien, sought interviews and updates. The world was watching, waiting, wondering. In the midst of this, Elira took me aside, her expression serene yet serious. "There is something vital you must know," she began, pausing to choose her words carefully. "Our child will be born soon, but not in the way your people understand birth." She explained that Tevrali children were born in a state of quantum flux, their form not fully fixed until they were exposed to their parents' home environments. "Our child will need both Earth and Tevrali environments to choose their final form," she explained. "We must be prepared to travel soon after the birth." The thought of traveling through space with a newborn, to worlds unknown and environments unexperienced, was daunting. Yet there was an undeniable thrill to it, a sense of embarking on an unprecedented adventure, not just for our family but for all who would watch and learn from us. As the final weeks ticked down, our lives were a whirlwind of activity, but at the heart, the days leading up to the birth were a symphony of motion and emotion, each moment filled with rituals and preparations. Our living quarters turned into a nexus of Tevrali and Earth technology, as devices from both cultures were installed to ensure the health and comfort of Elira and the baby. The blend of technologies was a sight to behold. Sleek, silvery Tevrali instruments hummed alongside the more robust, utilitarian human machines, creating a harmony of purpose and design. Amidst this high-tech confluence, Elira and I found moments of quiet reflection. "Our child will grow up in a world unlike any we've known," I mused during one of these interludes. Elira nodded, her hand resting gently on her abdomen, which now glowed with a soft, pulsating light, a sign that the birth was imminent. When the time came, it was unlike any earthly birth. There were no screams, no frantic rushing. Instead, the room filled with a harmonic resonance, a soothing melodic sound that emanated from Elira. This was the Tevrali way, a calming, almost meditative process that eased the child into existence. The medical teams, a mixture of human and Tevrali, worked in seamless unity, monitoring the complex array of biological and quantum indicators that flickered across their screens. The air shimmered with a palpable energy as the moment of birth approached, the boundary between dimensions thinning, allowing the child to slip from the quantum flux into our reality. With a final crescendo of harmonious tones, the child appeared not as a newborn might on Earth, but as a small, radiant being of light, its form slowly solidifying into a more recognizable shape. It was a breathtaking spectacle, watching a new life phase into existence, a literal and metaphorical merging of worlds. The child, whom Elira named Kalin, a Tevrali word meaning starlight woven, was truly a blend of both heritages. As Kalin's form settled, features from both Elira and myself began to emerge, a nose like mine, eyes a vivid echo of Elira's. As per Tevrali tradition, we immediately began the ritual of first environment. Kalin was carefully exposed to an Earth-like atmosphere, brought lovingly to life within a specially designed chamber that mimicked the conditions of my home planet. This exposure would help fix part of her physiological makeup, tying her to Earth and her human heritage. Following this, Kalin was placed within a Tevrali Enviro cradle, a device designed to stabilize her unique biological attributes that were inherited from Elira. This dual process was not merely symbolic, but vital for her health and development, ensuring that she would thrive in both environments. As I watched my daughter, a blend of galaxies and cultures, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride and a daunting awareness of the responsibilities that lay ahead. We were not just raising a child, but nurturing a living symbol of unity and peace. The news of Kalin's birth spread quickly, igniting a wave of celebration and curiosity across both Earth and Tevrali territories. Messages of congratulations poured in from all corners of the galaxy, from human politicians to alien leaders, all heralding the dawn of a new era. In the subsequent days, as we adjusted to our new roles as parents, Elira and I discussed our immediate future. "We will need to travel soon," she reminded me, her voice soft but firm. "Kaylin must be introduced to my world, to complete the second part of her ritual of first environment." I nodded, understanding the importance of this journey. Kaylin, our daughter, needed to know her mother's world, to feel the soil of Elira's home beneath her feet, to breathe the air scented with exotic flora, and to gaze upon the tri-moon horizon. Our preparations for the voyage began, a logistical and diplomatic endeavor that would take us from the familiar confines of Earth to the majestic. The departure was set under the cover of darkness, not for secrecy but to align with the cosmic windows that facilitated safer space travel. The ship waiting for us was a marvel of Tevrali engineering, sleek and silent, its hull reflecting the starlit sky with a surface that seemed to ripple with a life of its own. Elira, Kaylin, and I were accompanied by a team of specialists, both human and Tevrali, tasked with ensuring the baby's health and security during our voyage. As we boarded, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of apprehension mixed with excitement. This ship was to be our home for the foreseeable future, a vessel that would carry us beyond the familiar star systems, past the boundaries of human-charted space into the heart of Tevrali territory. Elira seemed to sense my unease. She squeezed my hand, her touch reassuring. "Think of this not as leaving behind your world, but as bringing our worlds closer together," she whispered, as we settled into the cabin designed to accommodate our new family. The launch was unlike any human spaceflight I'd witnessed. There was no roaring of engines or violent shaking. Instead, the ship ascended smoothly, silently, as if lifting on a gentle breeze. The Earth receded below us, its blues and greens fading into the blackness of space, and I felt a profound sense of departure, not just from a planet, but from an old way of life. Our journey was to last several weeks, and during that time, the ship became a space of learning and adaptation. Saran continued my education in Tevrali culture, using the ship's advanced systems to simulate experiences that would prepare me for what awaited on Elira's home planet. Meanwhile, human doctors and Tevrali healers monitored Kaylin's development, ensuring she adapted well to the conditions of space travel. Kaylin herself was a constant source of wonder. Her presence seemed to fill the ship with light. Her eyes, large and clear, reflected the cosmos outside our windows. Watching her, I realized she was more than just the symbol of a union between two species. She was a person in her own right, growing and learning in an environment that no human or Tevrali had ever known. The dynamics on board were a microcosm of the larger diplomatic efforts unfolding across galaxies. Discussions often stretched into the ship's night cycles, debates and dialogues that explored everything from trade agreements to educational exchanges. These were punctuated by moments of shared human Tevrali meals, where we exchanged stories and foods from our respective cultures. As we neared the Tevrali system, tension and anticipation grew. The crew prepared for our arrival, checking and rechecking systems that would handle our entry into a wholly alien atmosphere. Elira spent long hours at the observation deck, gazing towards her home, her expression a mix of joy and solemnity. Finally, the day came when the Tevrali planets came into view, a cluster of worlds that shone with a light that was both strange and beautiful. Elira pointed out her home planet, a vibrant orb with swirling clouds and bright landmasses, its 3 moons visible in the soft glow of the system's sun. The entry into the Tevrali atmosphere was smooth, the ship's technology perfectly attuned to the planetary conditions. As we descended, the surface features became distinct. The towering crystal forests, the sprawling cities that glimmered like clusters of stars, and the vast oceans that emitted a bioluminescent glow. We landed on a platform that jutted out over one of these glowing seas, the air rich and fragrant with alien scents. Stepping out, I held Kaylin close, her eyes wide with curiosity. Around us, a delegation of Tevrali awaited, their forms shimmering slightly in the light of their sun, ready to welcome Kaylin to her mother's world. As we walked forward, I realized that each step was a step. Upon our arrival, the Tavrali delegation greeted us not just with formalities, but with a warmth that permeated the cool, alien air. They were keen to see Kaylin, the child of two worlds, whose birth had been celebrated across galaxies. Her presence seemed to symbolize a new era of possibilities, not just for our two species, but for all sentient beings watching and wondering about the potential for peaceful coexistence. The first days on the Tavrali planet were a whirlwind of ceremonies and introductions. Kaylin was presented to the public in a grand event that was broadcast across both Tavrali and human networks, showcasing the unity and shared joy of our combined cultures. Illyra was radiant, her pride evident as she introduced her home to me and our daughter to her people. But beyond the celebrations, there was serious work to be done. I attended councils and meetings where the integration of our societies was meticulously planned. Economic partnerships, cultural exchanges, and educational collaborations were laid out with a precision that mirrored the Tavrali approach to most things in life: thoughtful, deliberate, and always with an eye towards the future. Meanwhile, Illyra and I took Kaylin to the places of her heritage, the crystal forests of Vael, where towering trees made of transparent minerals reflected the light of the triple moons, creating a kaleidoscope of colors. We visited the ancient learning halls, where Tavrali knowledge was stored in crystalline databases that responded not just to touch, but to thought. Each site visit was an education for Kaylin, but also for me. I learned not just about Tavrali culture, but about the responsibilities of parenting a child who would grow up belonging fully to neither world, but having a claim on both. It was a daunting realization, but one that filled me with a resolve to provide Kaylin with the understanding and support she would need. As our time on the Tavrali planet extended, I began to see the subtle ways in which our presence was influencing Tavrali society. Curiosity about human culture grew. Human music, art, and cuisine began to find a place among Tavrali preferences. Similarly, humans back on Earth were embracing Tavrali technologies and philosophies, finding value in their methods of sustainable living and their deep respect for the interconnectedness of life. This exchange was not without its challenges. Differences in life philosophy, governance, and even basic biological needs had to be navigated with care and respect. There were moments of misunderstanding, times when it seemed that the divide might be too great to bridge. But each time, the image of Kaylin playing happily with both human and Tavrali children in the gardens of the embassy served as a reminder of what was possible. In the end, the key to our success was communication and a deep-seated respect for diversity. These were the principles that Illyra and I adhered to, not just as diplomats, but as parents and partners. They were the principles that helped guide our communities toward a shared future, one where Kaylin and children like her could thrive. As I watched Kaylin one evening playing under the light of her 3 moons, I reflected on our journey. From Earth to this distant world, from a simple handshake to the formation of a family that defied the odds, our lives had changed in ways that were once unimaginable. And yet, through love, respect, and a boundless curiosity, we had found a new way forward. This was not the end of our story, but rather the beginning of a new chapter in the saga of the cosmos. A chapter where the lines between us and them blurred into insignificance, and where the possibilities were as limitless as the stars themselves.